Hi folks, I'm here in Auburn, Indiana for the Auburn-Cord-Duesenberg Festival and the ACD Club's annual reunion. Auburn was the place of origin for the Auburn Automobile as well as the headquarters for the Auburn Automobile Company. The town of Auburn is hosting its 69th festival, celebrating its car culture and history, and it coincides with the Auburn-Cord-Duesenberg Club's annual reunion that first took place in 1956. During the course of several days, events include club meetings, banquets, a parade, and turning Main Street into one big car show. Okay. Here we go. So the last video focused on my 33 Auburn V12 Salon Speedster. And part of what makes that story inspiring is what was going on in the car world in the 1950s. And this little Indiana town is a crucial part of the story. The car industry was relatively new. I mean, just one generation prior, people were still using horses. So the focus was on improvements and new technology. A 25-year-old car was about as appealing as a 25-year-old computer is today. How many of you are spending much time fixing up one of those? It was considered foolishness to invest hours of time and thousands of dollars to restore an old car to factory new condition. If anyone did have an old car, they wanted to customize it by modifying the body and the engine, turning it into a hot rod. So it was at this time, the mid-1950s, that a handful of car enthusiasts began to unite around the purpose of preserving the amazing cars of the 20s and 30s. And among others, the Auburn-Cord-Duesenberg Club was born. And these were typically not wealthy investors or speculators looking for a solid return on their investment. There was nothing extraordinary about them except their love of old cars. And because of that, people would call them weird or eccentric or just plain nuts. And, oh, look, here's the famous Randy Ema. Today, I have the rare and privileged opportunity to tour this city's landmarks with a noteworthy Randy Ema.
Good morning, Thomas. I'm glad you're awake.
Hold on. Okay, do this one. As a young man, Randy became fascinated with Auburns and Cords and Duesenbergs. So much so that they became his career choice and field of study. He actually moved to Auburn here from Southern California during the summer of 1972, conducting research for his master's degree in E.L. Cord. And so, in 1976, he opened a restoration business in Southern California that would produce multiple award-winning restorations for the next 45 years, including Best of Show at the Auburn Reunion and several Pebble Beach Award winners. He has served as the Duesenberg and Auburn historian and treasurer for the ACD Club. He's earned several club awards, including Man of the Year, Festival Grand Marshal in 2024, and he joined the club in 1965. So today I'm honored to call him my friend and to have his help in showing you Auburn's rich automotive history.
Was the original Eckhart Carriage Company building behind the house. So this was the first plant where they actually built carriages. And originally they had a sign up there, you can see where it was, that said Eckhart Carriage Company. It was moved here in the 1980s. They put a new roof on it, new walls, new flooring, but what's in here today are mostly Indiana-built horse-drawn vehicles. You've got Zimmerman, McIntyre, and Auburn. Those are the three main buggy manufacturers. In front of us is the Charles Eckhart House. He moved here in right after the Civil War, finally finding home in Auburn, Indiana, coming through Pennsylvania, learning the trade of carriage maker. And ultimately he built his first carriage in the parlor of this house, and then ultimately continued to grow, building a whole plant behind it, supplying horse-drawn vehicles for a lot of the Midwest. Ultimately, his two sons, Frank and Morris, ended up building the first auto in the back in one of the carriage buildings. Basically a carriage with an engine in it.
No history of classic cars is complete without mentioning Errett Auburn-Cord. It's nearly impossible to overstate his persona. Words like Gatsby style and czar and tycoon are used because industrial entrepreneur just isn't enough. In the early 1920s, as a young man, he was a very successful car salesman from Chicago. The governing board of the floundering Auburn Automobile Company hired him to revive the company in the mid-20s. He ended up president, and the first thing he did was to take the bloated inventory of boring cars and paint them flashy, bright colors. They soon found buyers, and sales continued to improve. When other car manufacturers began to struggle in the Depression, Auburn sales jumped from 13,000 to more than 30,000 in 1931. That was the foundation of what would become an empire comprised of 150 companies, including ships, airplanes, and Beverly Hills real estate.
In 1929, the Auburn Automobile Company, which was to my hard right, starting about a block up and going past our existing point, built this administration building. Now, parts of it were actually built by employees. Some of the digging out in the banks and the cliffs on the edge were built by employees. And they built the L29 building behind it just prior to the completion of this building, which is where they built the L29s and then later on assembled the Auburn-12s.
This building was the headquarters and showroom for the thriving Auburn Automobile Company in the early 1930s. After the company closed in 1937, this beautiful building became a parts headquarters, then a warehouse and industrial complex. By the 1970s, weather and misuse had rendered the edifice unrecognizable. Thanks to the foresight and vision of several community leaders, local residents, and businesses, the nonprofit Auburn Automotive Heritage was formed in 1973, and efforts began to purchase and restore the building. It opened as a museum in 1974, but work continued through the following decades. Today, the Art Deco floors, ceiling, and fixtures have been resurrected to their original splendor. It is not only one of the best car museums in the world, housing 140 cars, it has several special interest exhibits and a banquet hall. Millions of people have visited this small Midwestern town to experience for themselves the museum's beauty, exhibits, and rich history.
This is a 1932 Lycoming built Series BB Lycoming for Auburn 12 use. Originally, it was designed for a front drive Cord, and then built by Lycoming for the V12 Series Auburns in 1932, 3, and 4.
So while Leamy's design contributed to Auburn's best-selling year, 1931, their sales began to fall dramatically. And the Great Depression was a large contributor, but so were other factors. Regardless, the leadership at Auburn decided that Leamy's designs were growing old-fashioned, and they turned their design over to Gordon Buehrig, an established auto designer who had already been successful at Stutz and Duesenberg. It was Buehrig who morphed the square and flappy designs of the early 30s into the streamlined, modern art of the late 30s. Fenders became bobbed, running boards began to disappear, and body contours got more rounded. Buehrig quickly redesigned the Speedster and was completely responsible for the futuristic front-wheel drive 810 Cord with its long coffin-nosed hood and pontoon fenders. Randy was able to establish a close friendship with Gordon Buehrig, and I'll let him tell you about it.
I first met Gordon in 1972, I think it was. No, I'm sorry, 1965. He came to my home for an Auburn-Cord-Duesenberg meet, and from that point on, we became good friends. He actually got in '66 an 8/10 Cord that he had designed himself, that Glenn Prey had made the prototype of. He got the very first production car. And Gordon came many a time in that car to my home for different Auburn-Cord-Duesenberg events. But Gordon was an absolute sweetheart. He met his wife, Betty, here in Auburn when he worked here in 34, 35, and 36 briefly, working on the Cord projects and the Auburn, restyling the Auburns, coming back from General Motors. As long as Kay was alive, every year I came, somebody had flowers on it. But Kay died a number of years ago. And Kay is buried in Detroit with her first husband, as Gordon is buried here with his first wife. But great show, a lot of wonderful cars, perfect weather. How could we ask for more? My old friend Fred Rosner absolutely loved the driving this Cord. He thought that was the best thing.
Auburn, Indiana, home of the classics. If you ever get the opportunity, I highly encourage you to visit the Auburn-Cord-Duesenberg Museum. And if you're really lucky, you'll be near Auburn on Labor Day weekend. If you're at all interested in cars and American history, you'll find it worth your time. The people are cordial, the town is quaint, and the cars are magnificent.